Purpose of this video is to give you a refresher on how to integrate quotes and evidence smoothly into your writing. If you're watching this video, it means that you have pretty strong intro, body, and conclusion paragraphs, and we're just wrapping up the details at this point. Make sure that you take down these notes first into your notebook. First, you want to make sure all your quotes are embedded like this. Quote, text, finish the quote, parentheses, just the page number, and then the punctuation, the period. You should feel free also to combine your context and evidence. This can help you to introduce your evidence more smoothly. So what I'm saying is that you don't have to have one sentence for context, one sentence for evidence. I'm going to show you an example of how these two can be combined into one sentence. This will help you to introduce your evidence more smoothly, which is a sign of more advanced writing. This will also help you to cut down on your body paragraphs if they are too long. Let's look at the first example. Next, we see that Laurie is not quite what he appears to his mom. Narrator. On the first day of kindergarten, Laurie wore his ... So, the first example is an example of a poor example of integrating quotes and evidence. This way of introducing the speaker is pretty choppy. It's not very flowy. We don't want to introduce our evidence like this. So make sure that you're not introducing your evidence like that with the speaker and then a colon and then just dropping the quote in there. Second example. For example, we learn that Laurie might have a sinister secret side to him when the mother describes his appearance as, he looked as if he was going off to a fight. All right, so this is an example of the second bullet point that I talked to you about. When you're combining your context and evidence, this person has combined their context with their evidence. So they've got one sentence where they're doing two things at once. They've got one sentence where they're showing the context right here, and they're doing the evidence. This is saving them space, it's making their writing more concise, and they're doing two things in one sentence. All right, now for our last example. Some of those examples can be as simple as a change in his clothing preference and later when he spilled his sister's milk on the table. At the beginning of the story it says, "The day my son Laurie started kindergarten, he gave up his little boy clothes." The quote goes on and on. So this person has their context as one sentence, and they've got their evidence as the next sentence. They've got a nice little phrase here to ease the reader into the quote. So instead of just dropping the quote in there, kind of like this, so having context and then just the quote that starts at the next sentence, they've got a nice little phrase to kind of ease the reader in. At the beginning of the story it says, this helps the reader just have more information about where the quote is coming from, and it makes the reading much less choppy. It helps the reading to flow better. So instead of this, you want to have something to ease the reader into reading your quote. They've got this here, which we don't need. Remember that we just need the page number, but otherwise that is another way of doing it well. Student example 2 is the strongest because they've taken that extra effort to combine both the context and the evidence into one sentence. This requires the most skill, and that's why student example 2 is the strongest.